The second day of the United Nations General Assembly is underway. World leaders rejected Israel's genocidal actions and unilateral coercive measures during the first day of the general debate. The Lebanese Islamic resistance movement Hezbollah carried out a series of attacks against Israeli military targets, including the headquarters of the intelligence agency Mossad in Tel Aviv. And Hurricane Helene is intensifying, growing in size, and forecast to hammer Florida's Gulf Coast on Thursday with potentially devastating storm surge, with damaging winds and flooding rainfall. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from TeleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On the second day of keynote addresses at the United Nations General Assembly, world leaders are proposing solutions to tackle global challenges that threaten peace and sustainable development. On the first day of the United Nations General Assembly, the senior authorities stressed the importance of taking action in the face of climate crisis. In this regard, the heads of state and government rejected the genocidal actions of Israel and the imposition of unilateral coercive measures. The Latin American governments will play a key role in the second day, with the speeches of President of Dominica, Sylvain Burton, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Venezuela, Ivan Gil. And as we continue closely following the 79th edition of the United Nations General Assembly underway, our special envoy Jorge Gestoso dialogue with the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, for an exclusive interview with TeleSUR. Let's listen.
We are at the mission of St. Vincent and the Grenadines at New York, and we have the honor to have with us the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Mr. Ralph Gonsalves. Always a pleasure to have you, Mr. Gonsalves.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Gonsalves, what is the issue that you're bringing to the general debate that concern you the most?
Well, the first most important thing is for us to continue the work as small island developing states, which we elaborated at our meeting in Antigua and Barbuda in May, addressing the concerns of the 39 SIDS in the world, 70 million people, issues on climate change, climate financing. And then, of course, we are very much concerned about the contradictions in the world today and all the material difficulties that people are facing, and issues in Gaza and Ukraine and in other places, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan, and of course Haiti. Each of these conflicts has its own peculiar origins and context, but they're all reflective of a failure of the multilateral system, which is important for us to promote in order to have peace, justice, prosperity, and security. And in the hemisphere, the issue has to be addressed about the ghost of Monroe, which still stalks
the doctrine,
the citadels.
200 years later.
The citadels of a great nation. And we suffer either collaterally or directly because of this ghost. And this ghost is made flesh in many cases.
Still alive and kicking?
Still, yes, and the weaponizing of the financial system against Venezuela and Cuba, the embargoes, all the unjust declarations against these two countries, among others. And really to re-emphasize that there's no country in the Caribbean and Latin America which is a threat to this great nation, a nation of tremendous innovation and culture and hard work and ingenuity and prosperity. Of course, there are downsides, and one of the downsides is this ghost which traverses the marbled halls of the power brokers across this great empire.
You have always the threat of climate change. You are living in first-hand hurricanes and devastation in the island.
Absolutely. In St. Vincent and Grenadines, since the dawn of the 21st century, we have had 12 major climatic events. That's separate and distinct from the volcanic eruptions of April 2021. So that's a big issue for us. The last one is Hurricane Beryl, July the 1st this year. It affected 20% of our population and direct economic damage, 1/3 of our gross domestic product. So it's a serious matter for relief, recovery, and reconstruction. And the multilateral financial institutions are not fit for purpose to deal with these kinds of climatic events and the danger they represent and the damage they cause.
What about the economy? Because also the fact the world economy is not growing at the pace that everybody would love to, you also are feeling the pain.
We do feel in the pain. Part of it has to do with the internal contradictions of the dominant forces in the global political economy, and the outpouring from the contradictions within that political economy with war and the expenditure on war, weapons of mass destruction, lethal weaponry. And if we can spend even a fraction of that kind of money on human beings and to deal with climate justice and poverty and unemployment and education and issues touching and concerning women and girls and the young people, we'd be in a far better place. But the only area, the only zone in where we can bring all these things together is in the multilateral space. Hegemons and would-be hegemons don't really want to act multilaterally unless they do it within their own interests, because great powers have a tendency to want to maintain dominance. It has been so historically. And now and again they dress it up and tell us that the central contradiction is about democracy versus autocracy. Well, St. Vincent and Grenadines is a democratic country. We are free, we are independent, and we'd remain so always. And from where we sit, from where we stand, the central contradiction is not between democracy and autocracy. It is who gets what, when, where, and how. Who owns and controls the means of production, distribution, and exchange. That's what it is about. And when the various factions and nation states across the world, the hegemons and would-be hegemons, talk about the New World Order, I ask the simple questions. What's new? Which world? And who gives the orders?
What about the BRICS? How you see it?
That's an important countervailing force which is arising. Still, you have a unipolar world, but it's increasingly coming under strain and questioning. And that's part of the problem. And in some countries, you have an option being pursued, which is either, well, a neoliberal option or even a neo-fascist option in some cases. Because there are persons who run in these lines, apart from wanting to make their countries white again, which the country's never white. In any case, you can't turn the clock back. We are where we are. And it's really about maintenance of hegemony. I mean, to me, it's just a very straightforward matter. And in a great nation, sometimes we find ourselves where we are in the shadow of this great nation. We become prisoners too of their presidential politics and so on and so forth. And we have to live with these things and find the spaces to be able to organize our affairs in our own interests. It's not easy. And we have to ensure that we build alliances, and we build these alliances not to undermine anybody, but to build alliances to advance our own cause, our own interests, the interests of the people, to make sure that we live decent lives.
As a neighbor of the Caribbean, Haiti, a question in two parts. One, basically pushed by the U.S., it has been sent a quote-unquote police force to put order. First of all, it was not a United Nations typical mission because it was not financed by the United Nations, it was financed by the U.S. So far, no results at all. What they're trying to say that it's going to bring peace and whatever, it's not working. So part of the question would be, is it already another intervention of the first world that is failing in Haiti? And the second part of the question, your reaction of Haiti in the political campaign of the U.S. trying to diminish the credibility of the Haitian and say that they're eating cats and dogs.
Yeah, well, the latter issue there about cats and dogs is just rubbish, absolute rubbish. It's where prejudices are being raked over in quest of something ignoble. I don't think serious people take that kind of a rubbish, give it any credence. The question, the first part of the question, the more complicated one, when people are suffering from violence generated by gangs and criminal gangs, sometimes they put on the cloak as though they're Robin Hoods, but criminal gangs. People want peace, they want security, they want humanitarian assistance, they want to see certain basic rights restored to them, they want to see democracy, they want to be able to go about their lives in some way, give meaning to themselves and their families. And people would look to any source for security. Haiti is a member of the Caribbean community, and we have been working politically on important questions. And this is through the work of CARICOM that we are able to get the Presidential Council moving and see that there's a government in place which reflects broad interests. Not yet elections, we'll get to that in another year's time, hopefully. Always within the framework of something being Haitian-led and Haitian-devised. The Kenyans who are there, they're part of the MSF, the Multinational Security Force, which the United Nations Security Council has approved of, not as part of a peacekeeping force from the United Nations. We have been there, that one before, and that wasn't very successful.
At all.
No. This one is to get countries to help. The United States not going to put in any troops for all kinds of different reasons, nor indeed Canada. So other countries have said, well, we can help, but it's an expensive business. So I don't see what is happening the same as the old-fashioned interventions. It's more nuanced. And look, when you're in a difficult situation, you have to try to make the best of it, and because men and women make history, but only to the extent that the circumstances of history permit them so to make. As I said, if you're living in the capital city, and 80% of it is controlled by gangs who can act capriciously, you're not concerned about where the security comes from. The truth of the matter, though, is that the number of security personnel from outside on the ground, so far they're not making a significant difference. They've made some difference, but the gangs are still there to be dismantled.
So it's still a challenge.
It's a great challenge.
You think it's going to see results or hopefully results in what sort of term? Short, medium, large?
No, this is a long haul. And hopefully we can have enough security for the electoral system to be fashioned and for people to be able to campaign.
For next year, for example?
Maybe next year, maybe another year plus.
You're optimistic?
Well, hopeful. You know, there's a Pauline virtue about faith. It's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of that which we have not yet seen.
Mr. Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, thank you very, very much
for
having us.
Thank you.
We were listening to our special envoy Jorge Gestoso and Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines Ralph Gonsalves during an important exclusive at such a significant time for the international scene. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Lebanese Islamic Resistance Movement Hezbollah has carried out a series of attacks against Israeli military targets, including the headquarters of the intelligence agency Mossad in Tel Aviv. On Wednesday morning, the Lebanese resistance group confirmed they hit the complex with a Qadar-1 ballistic missile. Hezbollah explained that the attack against the Israeli office is a response to the planning carried out by the body that resulted in the assassination of several of its commanders. On the other hand, Israel assures that the anti-aircraft defense intercepted the rocket. This is the first time since the escalation of tensions between Lebanon and Israel that the resistance attacks the city of Tel Aviv. The Zionist regime in turn attacked residential areas in southern Lebanon minutes later. Let's go live at this moment with our special envoy at the United Nations General Assembly, Jorge Gestoso, who is set to interview in a special interview with the Foreign Affairs of Venezuela, Ivan Gil. Let's see. Hi, Gestoso. Can you hear me?
Estamos aquí en Naciones Unidas y tenemos el privilegio de contar con la presencia
to have the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Mr. Ivan Gil. Minister, thank you for being here. Thank you. It's an honor being here and talk about what we have done here in the United Nations. You have done a lot. And you just came out of a meeting with the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sergei Lavrov. What was relevant about that meeting? Well, Venezuela and the Russian Federation have an extraordinary relation. We may say that we're building a strategic alliance from long ago, from the era of Chavez, commander. We have done great agreements and built great projects in the energy, health, transportation areas, in almost all areas of economy, and we have built relations. And with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, we were talking about those aspects, details of collaborations in matters of finance, politics, and flights and tourism. We have a lot of tourism from Russia to Venezuela. A new, powerful alliance. Russia is a great technological power and industrial power. It has a great history and oil production capacity that we share this vision with natural resources. And we were also analyzing the geopolitical situation with those nations and also in the world. Russia submitted to an attempt of attacking its territory from Europe using NATO as a platform. We were analyzing the situation in Palestine, world peace, situation of the United Nations. We are partners in the group of the letter of the United Nations, and we were analyzing an initiative of respecting the agreements of the United Nations, building multilateralism as the only way to preserve peace and reestablish peace. It has been an interesting meeting, very deep, and several aspects in bilateral and multilateral relations. These same days, the second day of general debates here in the United Nations, your intervention, which topics are you going to talk about? What's happening in Venezuela? Yeah, briefly, we're going to intervene in the General Assembly. Venezuela brings denounce about the instrumentalization to the United Nations to attack sovereign countries, how the United Nations has instrumentalized to attack countries like Venezuela, and Venezuela is victim of an attack from the United States against its institutions. The United States is using its territory for building conspirations in Venezuela. We saw that recently, the denounce of the Minister of Interior, Justice and Peace, Diosdado Cabello, how we have captured an official, a military, that was active in Venezuela during the elections and after the elections, directing terrorist operations to murder the President of the Republic, the Vice President, to attack the Miraflores Palace, to attack infrastructure, bridges, hospitals, and we are going to denounce this in the speech, and also the way in which the United States has given to this operation of conspiration against institutions, against Venezuela, that have been defeated as all before. Let's remember the recent attempt of invasion in May 2020, defeated from the Caribbean Sea, the head-on operation. From Colombia, several operations have been attempted, and all of them have been defeated, also this one. And we demand to the United States to agree with their commitment, the one it signed, when it committed to raise all the sanctions as a way to normalize relations with our country. And you're going to denounce NATO. So yes, we are going to denounce NATO as we have always done before. We were talking about that with the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, because NATO has become the biggest threat for the world peace, not only in Europe, but also in Latin America. We are seeing an advancement. We are seeing governments such as the one of Ecuador and Argentina allowing the installation of military bases in Latin America, hostile bases that put at risk the peace and security of the region. This is a very severe fact we're going to denounce. You have been strong even in the future summit where you participated regarding the denounce of what you qualify as genocide of Israel in Palestine, defending Palestine. And let's talk about the position of yours in this speech. First of all, condemning Israel, the Zionist state that has started for several years, a massacre against the Palestinian people. But from October the 7th became a true genocide. 40,000 dead. We know the figures might be bigger. Children, women, innocent men. The bombing of infrastructure, houses. It's madness what is happening, the worst action we have ever experienced since Adolf Hitler in Germany. It's the worst that humanity has ever met since the United Nations was constituted. It was constituted precisely to avoid these kinds of events. Unfortunately, we're seeing them. The Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, it's out of control. Now starting a war operation in Lebanon, is invading Lebanon, practically bombing civilian buildings, killing innocent people. They started an operation of state terrorism, activating bombs in communication devices, but in private companies. They intervene the supply chains to make them explode, which is a terrorist action that puts the humanity at risk. That we all can use a cell phone, a radio, so we are not safe since Israel has proven that it is capable of murdering through these devices, so cause a state of insecurity in the world. We're going to denounce that. That has to do with the Palestinian genocide, and also we need to urge the international community to mobilize against this. And what the Palestinian people is living is unfair, and we're talking about Sergei Lavrov. You just met with him. In 3 weeks, the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia. President Nicolas Maduro is invited. Did you talk about it? What do you think about BRICS and the future of BRICS and Venezuela? Yeah, we see BRICS as hope. It's a new way of organizing the world, a world based in complementarity, solidarity, not only in trade aspects or business aspects, but a world based in the only way of getting out of and develop is all together. Great powers there present: China, South Africa, India, Russia, Brazil. Now joined us Iran, Ethiopia, Egypt. It's a great bloc, and Venezuela participates in the former BRIC Plus in this meeting and has participated in all of the meetings. We have stated our aspiration to become partners of BRICS in the next meeting, and we're working in that. We count on the support with Russia. We will continue to work with BRICS, since beyond an organization, it is a work advantage, a doctrine that allows to advance in geopolitical relations and development of our countries. If you have to summarize in a headline your participation, Venezuela's participation in this General Assembly, what is the results of Venezuela, what Venezuela leaves to the United Nations? Venezuela has brought the truth of Venezuela, and has denounced truths that are awkward for the world, are able to be manipulated. Venezuela has morals, has advantage that we don't owe anything to anybody, and we can denounce, and we have found good reception of the world. The world has reacted to these difficulties, and we are going to see this mobilization soon. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your invitation. We go back after interviewing Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, here from the United Nations.
Thank you, Jorge. We were listening to our special envoy, Jorge Gestoso, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Venezuela, Iván Gil, during an important exclusive interview in which the minister referred to a recent meeting with the authorities from Russia in the framework of the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly. The high official of Venezuela also highlighted Venezuela's right to defend its democracy and peace despite Western powers' attempts against the country. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media: Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.